How's it going, everybody? My name is Mattshotcha. I'm your lead community developer here at Gun Media, and I'm joined by a very under the weather Mr. Wes Keltner.
I'm dying.
Not even his name first, just I'm dying.
Yeah, I've got tea. I got my box of Kleenexes.
It's perfect. You're all set up, man.
I'm set. So yeah, sorry, chat, that I sound all nasally and gross, and there may be sneezing and coughing and blowing my nose midstream. So
I think I can speak for everybody here that we're just happy that you were able to make it, and we really appreciate it. Yay, green hair guy's back. Yeah,
rip West. Yeah, that's 100% correct.
Right.
I this morning I woke up. I mean, it was horrible. Got in the shower and because when you have a head cold and you've been asleep and you've been like mouth breathing because you can't breathe, everything's dry and gross. And then you get in the shower and it rehydrates, and then you turn into a faucet and you're like, oh God, and it was bad.
And you could feel everything kind of congest at that point because of the steam and everything.
It was bad. And so I ate some breakfast and crawled right back into bed, and I pretty much laid there for about 3 hours, and then finally got up and was like, okay, one more shower to try to feel like a human again, and got some tea, and now I'm here. So
I got in this morning and I had an email from Wes saying, is everyone sick?
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought he was in the office and just beat us all here. Then I realized that he was not here. No Dan, as you guys can tell. We're on the tighter frame camera now. We've got Dan out sick as well.
Dan is dead too.
Yeah.
It started with Ronnie. He got something over the weekend and he didn't come in, so it wasn't like he spread it here. Yep. So I don't know who's to blame, but apparently there's something going around. So I'll apologize, Matt, if you wake up tomorrow gross and sick.
No, it's all good. I'm gonna walk out of here and I'm gonna actually go head to toe with Purell. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Where's Dan's dad? Dan's dad is out sick too.
Yeah, he's sick.
So anyhow, guys, what we have today is we had discussed some episodes of Beyond that were going to be kind of in these in-between moments, and we figured what better time to kind of recap some of the things that have gone on than when we have a quiet moment. And right now, currently, the folks at Gun Media, we're in a little bit of a crunch for getting ready for PAX. We're trying to sort all of our things out for PAX East.
And that's Layers of Fear 2.
Which is Layers of Fear 2.
We've got a big showing that we're going to be there for that conference, which we're excited about. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, everyone is back to 100%.
I said it on Twitter earlier, and I really feel this way. I'm hoping that everybody's immune systems just gets a little bit of a buff right now from this. So
I don't know, though. Convention, like PAX box stuff, it's real hard to have an immune system for that.
That's true. That's true. It's real business, though, too, getting down there and getting in those tight quarters with so many folks. But, so we got a bunch of folks, hammering away on things on PAX East. We will have another Layers of Fear episode of Beyond before PAX East at some point.
Yes.
Where we're going to kind of give you guys a little bit of a recap and all the final details on what we're doing. In the meantime...
Didn't Wes wear that outfit last stream? No, I didn't. I mean, I wore this jacket.
He wore the jacket.
I did not wear the shirt.
What we got here?
The Rabbit in Red Lounge.
Nice.
If anyone, true horror fans in chat will know exactly what that's from. Wes looks comfy. Yeah, no, that's... I was going to say, priority one.
Even if he wore it already, I think we could let him get away with that, considering that he probably
I feel like
crawled.
The Slash and Cast dudes will know what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll probably be like, oh, shit.
See? Ooh, I want that. Yep.
Yeah.
So, on today's show, though, we are going to go back and talk about something kind of cool. Wes has been sharing some fun stuff. If you
mostly
follow
butts.
Him. Mostly butts, yeah, to be fair. But, I mean, butts are fun. But he's been sharing some fun stuff on social. There was some traction that kind of built out of it. People were like, this is really cool. We want to see more of this kind of thing. So today we're going to talk about counselors and the design that went into counselors. We have some cool concept art and everything else to share. But before we jump into that, we are also doing some giveaways. Some yay, we have a stream still. Thanks for being here, Wes. Giveaways. We're giving away 2 steelbooks. Let's see. There you go. There you go. 2 steelbooks of Friday the 13th, the game right now. 1 in Mixer and 1 in Twitch. Gun Media Help / Gun Media Support is going to be opening up those giveaways in just a second. When they're open and they're going, you guys make sure you enter and you get a chance to win this. Also, later in the show, we have some more goodies to give away that we're going to do to close out the show. So.
Also, Moxie, thanks. Appreciate it. What's up?
Oh, see, there you go. I was just going to get into our hellos for the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks like we've got JJC, we've got Daria19XX, Nick Slash and Cast, Jinx, Newman on Gaming, Gugu, Mad Eye Yokai, how's it going? Caleb Clutter, Frequent Tromboning, Adam Wilson, Paul Smash, and Moxie. Hey, Moxie. Yeah, there you go, guys. Enter the raffle. Land of the Cleaves, how's it going? Havoc, what's up, buddy? Paper Girl, how's it going? You guys go ahead and enter that raffle. Like I said, Gun Media Support / Gun Media Help. They'll be getting in touch with you with our winners. We're going to launch right into our show, though, so just keep an eye on chat, and they'll take care of that. Mr. Wes Keltner.
Mr. Me.
I'm trying to do a lot of the talking because I know that
No, that's fine.
you know.
I feel the Dayquil is starting to rejuvenate a little bit. So
It's funny they can't see. We actually have an IV of Dayquil behind
yeah,
us
it's
right now.
I'm mainlining
right
it.
into his neck.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why he's wearing the collared jacket.
Mhm.
So, Wes, I want
Hashtag
to.
waffle. Yeah, it's raffle, but
Yeah.
we could give away waffles maybe. So
That would be pretty cool if we had like some, some Stranger Things kind of.
right,
All right.
right.
What I was going to say though was to provide some. We wanted to hear some general insight
Mm-hmm.
from you on the process of determining counselors.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's myself, Ronnie, and Ben Praetorian, who's in chat.
Oh yeah.
We all sat down and just started discussing like what types of counselors made sense, and this was even before the we received the license, right? Like so, back when we were summer camp, we were already laying out the foundation for the types of counselors that would be in the game, and we broke them down into sort of tropes that we thought most people both would recognize from horror movies as well as just people you might have known from high school or whatever. So
Right.
you have more of like a athletic or jock, or you would have a quote unquote nerd. You may have a flirty girl, et cetera, et cetera. So we
Right.
kind of came up with these. It was no brainer. It's like that wasn't that difficult, right?
Right.
But then it was, what's a little bit more about their personalities. Well, and with that, like I handed a lot of that over to Ben. Again, that's Praetorian in chat. I kind of gave Ben a really high level, like the jock should probably kind of be an asshole.
Right.
And he'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, and the
Right.
the edgy guy should be, maybe it's hard to warm up to, but once you do, his circle of friends are tight or something like that. And he'd be like, got it. And he, went off and then for our main 10 counselors wrote, the bios for everybody. And of course, then the license happened and we got, went to Kickstarter, and then there was backers, obviously, that bought the rights to be in the game. So there was some shifting and changing that had to occur around that because we use their real name, obviously.
Right.
So, Kenny Riedel is a real person.
Right. Which I was going to get into.
Adam Palomino, a real person in real life. That's a real person. And we reached out to those backers, and they sent us photos from when they were about 18, 19, right? And then we used those with 3D modeling and kind of brought them back to their youth again in the game to be immortalized, if you will.
Which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm in a video game. It's another thing to be like, I play a counselor in a video game, so they got me when I was in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of interesting to hear certain characters that are,
We didn't have any female backers
which is interesting too.
that wanted wanted to be in the game. It was all male counselors, and obviously none of them want to be seen as, if their name is Kenny Riedel, it's
Right.
and they wanted to be themselves, right?
right.
Which makes sense. So we didn't have any female backers, so we still needed to finalize the female counselors. So I had been working on bios. Ronnie started working on the names of the counselors that weren't backers, right? Coming up with those names. And I went head down on their clothing and started making some of that. I think Ronnie did maybe 2 of the counselors' clothing that he kind of said, I think here's the basics.
Right.
And I would put all that together in a big proposal type of PDF thing, and would sit down with the 3D modelers and the texture artists and walk through, what is it that this person wears and why, and how the layers work, and if they have multiple clothing later, what does that look like? So every time we would, go back and do new versions of the same clothing or new clothing, like I would sit down and come up with what all of those should be. My favorite was actually doing the Halloween pack, the trick or treat pack or whatever. That was one of my favorite ones to sit down and do. But
one of the things I think is coolest actually about the Halloween pack is it sounds I work here. I get it. Okay, I'm biased. All right, let's get that out of the way. But you can see how much how much you guys really fleshed out the personalities of these characters. Like AJ's Halloween costume is exactly what AJ would wear as a Halloween costume. You know what I mean? Like there was never sometimes with skins or outfits, it seems like you're like, well, this is cool and would fit the body type.
Yeah.
And folks kind of,
Well, when you're eating and breathing sort of these characters,
Right.
and you're always working with them and on them and tweaking them. Like a lot of times I would set with the sculptor, and there's no clothing at all yet, and we're sculpting like pieces of the body in the way that I want it, the way that I think it would look right. And yes, I did put emphasis on butts, but that's because it's a third-person game.
That's right.
And that's what you're looking at when you're running and playing. So it makes sense that the focus should be, you should appreciate a good-looking backyard, right?
And it's got to at least like animate correctly.
Yeah,
Right? Which was something I thought was interesting when you shared the gift. You were like,
that is legit, like the GIF. And I sat down with both the sculptor has to sculpt right, and then the animator works with the rig to make sure that it's moving the right way. And so once we finalized that and got it nailed down to like, this is Tiffany's butt movement and sway and everything with her normal cadence of walking. Once you have that, then that can become like the sort of the starting point for any other female counselor. And then you can make adjustments to that. Like AJ's got a little bit more of a backyard on her. And so her sway isn't the exact same sway as Tiffany's. So it's little things like that.
Well, and like Deb, she's a little bit more reserved in her personality. So like maybe she doesn't have as much of a hip sway, which we're going to get into some really cool things. We have some cool treatments and things to put up on screen. But I think that segues great for the first thing we want to show, which is going to be our counselor concepts. We have a counselor concept artwork. Maybe if we can get our producer, as always, Rob, the man behind the curtain.
Mr. Fox.
Mr. Fox, yes. The second, Rob Fox the second. There you go. We've got Adam Palomino, who, of course, is a backer. And apparently looks like someone I know. I
grew up with someone like that?
I was looking at this artwork, and I was like, I know this guy. And I was like, no, I know this guy from the, but I know this guy.
Yeah.
The other three here, AJ, Chad, and Deborah, are all actual creations.
I'm going to kind of jump around here a little bit, so
don't.
I'll stick to the four that are on the screen, but I'm going to kind of jump around. When I first started designing Deborah, that was her first name, Deborah. I didn't have a last name yet.
Okay.
And I was looking at some of the counselors from the films, and was trying to come up with exactly what the look I wanted to. And then Ronnie comes into the office one day, pokes his head in my door or whatever, and says, hey, I think Deborah should have like an Asian ethnicity. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that actually makes sense. And he's like, I want her to have a last name Kim. And I'm like, where'd you come up with that? And he was like, oh, I went to 1982 most common Asian American last names. And that was number one in 1982.
It's a very Ronnie thing to do.
And I was like, I'm like, well, then that's her name now, Deborah Kim. There you go.
For those of you who don't know just yet, Ronnie, I mean, the research level with him, you ask Ronnie a question about something and he prepares.
He's thorough. You
can ask him how his weekend was, and you see the mental process that he goes through. This is a guy who and anecdotally, the outfit for Roy.
Yeah.
This is an interesting story.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of effort and background that Ronnie put into tracking down the details on the color of Roy's getup and the mechanic jumpsuit.
I'm sorry, but I forgot the name of the actor that played Roy. Sorry, it's probably the cold medicine. He got on the phone with him.
Yeah.
And was talking to him, and he was like, what was the exact color? Right? Like, can you explain the color of the jumpsuit?
Right.
And there was a lot of back and forth.
Because for those of you who don't know, the lighting in that has a tendency to toss off the color.
So, which is why we finally was like, well, let's just give them both.
Right.
What is spruce green? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And in certain light, it's bluer, and other lights, it's green. And it's like, well.
And the way they lit it, yeah. But anyhow, back to the matter at hand. I just wanted to take a quick note on how the level of detail, like he said, Ronnie went and found out what the most common names for that time period were.
So, yeah, I guess to go over something. Of course, Adam Palomino is a real person. He's a fun guy. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying he owns a strip club in Vegas. called the Palomino Club, which is one of the oldest strip clubs in the old version of Vegas. It's not New Vegas; it's in the old, Vegas
wow.
strip. But he's a sweetheart, big teddy bear. He's a cool guy, and so he backed us, and then wanted to look again like he was 18, 19. So he sent us some images, and then we sat down and just came up with like, well, a guy that maybe. And again, Ben wrote the bios. I can actually read some of these bios that Ben wrote, which
Nice.
It's really good.
I wasn't going to push him on this too, because he said I have these really great bios, and then
well, I'm going to
today
go
with
through
all the
these kind of
sick
quick because they're a little wordy. There's multiple pages here because Ben is very thorough as well.
Yeah.
Ben is actually a really good writer when it comes to character story backgrounds and like giving depth to the characters. He did a really good job. Because the long-term goal of this was within the UI itself. When you're selecting a character, we wanted you to be able to, after like on the stats page, you can also flip the stats and read their bio.
Got you. It's like a trading card thing.
Exactly. So we want to do that with all the Jasons too, but alas, time was against us. Anyway, Adam Palomino, the tough guy. Originally from a broken home with a drunk father and a working mother who tried her best to raise the family, Adam has grown up with a chip on his shoulder. He's an all-around great guy to anyone that interacts with him, but he presents himself as a guy who doesn't need charity from anyone. He took an early love for cars and rock and roll at a young age to keep his mind off of his parents' constant bickering, and is quite popular with his circle of friends for maintaining and racing cars. Meeting him for the first time would make one believe that he's an asshole, but after getting to know him, he's one of the most trustworthy and loyal friends anyone could ask for. Growing up with his family, he knows that he can't be like his father and hopes one day to be the man he always believed himself to be.
It's pretty cool.
So there's your quick background on the character of Adam Palomino.
And a quick shout to Mr. Praetorian in chat for writing up these backgrounds. And
I mean, this was how many years ago, Praetorian, when these were written? Like, I had to dig through.
He said in
docs.
chat, he was like, "Oh my God, you still have those?"
Yeah, I had to dig through. Yeah, I mean, dig deep. So AJ, and this will be one that you guys will have to @ Ronnie on Twitter to get some more background because he's the one that came up with the name for AJ, AJ Mason, and there's a nod in that name to Silent Hill.
Oh wow, okay.
And somebody in chat probably knows this better than I do because that's his like I loved Resident. I mean, he didn't not like Resident Evil. He just really loved Silent Hill. Right. It like more so than your. I played it and I liked it too. But he's like he ate and breathed it. Like he's in the canon, son. Like he knows it. So I'm assuming that maybe there was a character in the first one or maybe the second one. Last name Mason. I'm not sure, or maybe it was AJ. Again, I'm not sure.
Have to get that trivia. Maybe we'll drop that in Discord.
I wish he was feeling good today, so he could have been in here to like give some background on that too. But yeah, with AJ, of course, I was looking at part 5 with the character that does the awesome robotic dance, upstairs. There was a little bit of inspiration from that. Also, when I was growing up, my sister, who was 5 years older than me, I had some friends that she hung out with, and one of them, hair was a little bigger, makeup was a little thicker, and listened to like really interesting music that like I'd never heard of before, right? Like she had some like slumber party thing or something one night, and they all brought tapes. That's what you had back then. And they all were like playing different tapes for each other. And I walk in the room and I hear this music playing, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, what is this? And the girl with the makeup and the looks up, and she's like, Butthole Surfers.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a band called Butthole Surfers. I'm like, this is amazing. So that was also a little bit of inspiration to AJ. But I like that she's kind of a little calm and maybe a little bit to herself, but still got a punk, vibe, sort of a rock vibe from her.
But hold on, before you jump into AJ.
Yeah.
Because I've got this organized with our buddy Rob in there. I want to jump ahead a bit.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back to the late.
No, it's fine. You jump, however order we got this in, we can jump around. It's fine. So whatever's next, let's go into it.
Let's jump to Chad because I feel like we'll get the lone fella out of the way right now.
Sure.
Thank you, Rob, very much. So now, this is Chad. Everybody knows Chad's a dick.
Chad is a dick. Everyone had someone that they grew up around or went to high school with.
The feathered hair.
That even if it wasn't during the 80s or 90s, if you grew up in the 2000s or whatever, there was still that person that felt like they always everything kind of came up gold for them, right? And it was like, and they just annoyed you, and they had everything, the right hair, the right clothes.
Which actually plays into an attribute for Chad.
Yeah, right, right. And this whole thing with dad owns a dealership. So, full discretion, I wrote that line because, and I think it was Ben and I sitting and joking about Chad, is there's a scene in Aqua Teen Hunger Force where the alien bros come down, and it's like they're in a fraternity, right?
I know exactly what you're talking
And they're
about.
like hazing the
Yep.
the freshman guy or whatever. They're getting him drunk. Well, one of the guys is like, "My dad totally owns a dealership," and like says it over and over. And another guy's like, "Yeah, do you know who his dad is?" And that just always stuck with me. Is like, yeah, like I knew that kid growing up because I had that exact thing. There was a guy I went to high school with, and yep, his dad owned the local dealership. He drove the nicest cars. He had the coolest clothes, et cetera, right? So. Some of that played into that. As you can tell, the two images there were the visual sort of inspiration for this character. Of course, we changed his face, but similar hair, similar clothing treatment. So yeah, it's a kind of a no brainer there. But that was how Chad Kensington came together. And I want to say that I think Ben maybe came up with the name Chad.
Okay.
And then I wanted to name him Kensington because that just sounded so pretentious and so.
Especially if it were a first name, Kensington.
If it was his first name, right?
Yeah, because they always have that long name, right? Like,
yeah, Ben said I demanded it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Ben, you have to step in here. Was it you with Chad and me with Kensington, or vice versa? I can't remember, but I remember there was no possible way that we can't name him Chad. Yeah. So I think Ben maybe came up with the name Chad. I came up with Kensington, but either way, it's how all things when you're making stuff like this is when you have a lot of talented people on the team and you're all just riffing off each other. Somebody says something, you all start cracking up, or you all start saying like, "Yeah, that's a perfect fit,"
Right.
and you go with it. So it's never really just one person usually sitting down and just
But it all fits so well because I mean the last name Kensington, Chad, it's just
you just say it and you're like, you want to roll your eyes, you kind of want to punch him a little bit.
you see the loafers and the,
Yeah.
the sweater. I mean, as soon as you have a sweater tied around your neck,
Yeah,
like
you're like, come on.
yeah, your name is either Chad or your parents missed a trick.
Or like
So,
a Troy.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Not
For
no
a
offense,
while.
no offense to anyone chat whose name's Troy. I'm just saying in film,
Yeah.
whenever the bad guy shows up, it's usually
And in a lot of 80s movies, it was always Brad.
or Brad. Yeah,
Brad
that's
was
a
like
good
the bad boyfriend that was like, he was a little like intense.
one. Troy was the bad guy in Goonies.
Yeah.
If you remember, they held on to Brand's hand on when he was riding the bike, and he had like the IROC Z or whatever
Yep.
fucking car he had. Anyway, moving on, we got distracted. So that's Chad.
Chad is by far a very fleshed out douche.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll read you the quick background on Chad Kensington, written by the one and only Praetorian in chat. Growing up in a privileged New Englander family, Chad has lived a life of luxury to the point of excess. He hosts parties on the weekends at his parents' house while enjoying the comfortable joys of yachting, a private tennis court, and access to incredibly nice cars. He attends a private university, one that his family has been going to for over 5 generations. Chad is warm-hearted to his friends, intent on being the showman of the group. He is more than willing to spend money to ensure that everyone has a good time. However, he is not particularly comfortable around those that he does not know and is likely to brush them off rather than engage them in any sort of meaningful contact. He is very used to getting what he wants and will break the rules and ignore warnings to accomplish his goals. While he does not intend to belittle others, his wealth and background does not offer much insight into the lives of those less fortunate, making him come off as a jerk to a fair amount of people.
I didn't get a chance to look at these beforehand. Wes had mentioned that he had them. Like I said earlier, he had mentioned that he had them. Then with everything going on today and it was a little chaotic, I wasn't sure if we were going to get them. And I knew I wanted to track them down because I wanted to hear them.
Yeah.
And oh my God, they're so worth it.
Oh,
Ben,
yeah.
Ben did an amazing job on that.
Yep,
You hear that and you're like, yeah, that's that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
you should post the bios on Twitter. That might be fun. Maybe we'll do
Yeah.
something with them.
Yeah.
So up next, though, that covers everybody's favorite dick. Up next, we've got we're gonna go into
Deborah.
Deborah Kim.
Yeah, so you may recognize a couple people there in that scene. Molly Ringwald, of course. I think that was from 16 candles maybe. And then
They all bleed together. For me
yeah.
before.
Anyone recognize the girl in the bottom right corner? Anyone know what film she's from?
Come on, chat. Don't fail us.
Come on, Chad, you can do it. Anyway, that was the inspiration, both sort of part 7. Visually, I wanted that kind of frumpy, mousy sort of look, both in her clothing and maybe her hairstyle, but still she's like really smart. She's real book smart,
Right.
maybe not necessarily street smart. But yeah, that was the quick and dirty on the directions that we give, because the artists are pretty good. So once you have your concept art piece like you have on the far left, the rest is just some details, and some things make it, some things don't, right? Like, because I may send over something like, I want this exact outfit, but then the animator comes back and says, well, if we give her that outfit, it kind of is billowy and her arms will clip through it when she's walking.
Oh,
and you're like, well, so what do we need to do? And they're like, you need to bring it down, bring it tighter, bring clothing that's a little bit more form-fitting, so that animations never clip through any of the clothing. Now, you still see it happen sometimes in some of the kills, because Jason like puts them in awkward, sort of things. So it can happen, but
less frequently.
You have these, like, you want these, because in the 80s it was like, a lot of big hair and a lot of layers, like you see in Molly Ringwald's picture there, that they're wearing a lot of layers, but then it's hard to pull that off in a video game, because you're going to have to make the rig, like, put their arms way out here like this, so that they're not hitting the
then
clothing.
You get that, like, totally
And
unrealistic.
it looks really bad. So you have to make a choice. Like, do you want them out here? Do you want their arms clipping through it? Or do you want to make the clothing a little bit more svelte and a little bit more tighter? And that's the direction we had to go. Was I wanted something bigger, but we can't, because it's gonna look really bad if we do that. So you basically would have to build an entire new rig just for the clothing, so that it moves and animates properly, and that's huge time sink. Just had to redo all that just for.
It's a lot better to trim up a sweater, right?
Yeah, because all the female counselors share the same female rig, and all the male counselors, they share a male rig.
Right.
So when you start with that, then all the stuff that you put on them has to all kind of meet within the same silhouette, so that you don't have animation issues.
I have noticed, though, that some of those character personalities and traits, you guys, there seems to be a lot of work that went into making up for them. Like, I always notice AJ's posture, which AJ's posture when she's just standing in game has a little bit of a, like, standoffish, kind of guarded kind of posture to her, whereas when you look at the Tiffany character or the Jeanne Meyers, they don't.
A lot of that's through shoulder placement. And so you'll notice that maybe a Deborah and an AJ, their shoulders favor a little bit forward. And the mentality there behind that is they're not trying to, there's maybe a slight lack of confidence. There's also this feeling of maybe when you're at that age and you're trying to understand your sexuality, right? And you're trying to put your finger on how all this stuff works, that chest out in high school is going to draw a different kind of attention, right?
Absolutely.
Where Tiffany, you look at her model, her shoulders are back.
And she has, like, a very pronounced sway when she walks, and her, very confident stance.
Exactly. Exactly. So all that comes into to play with when you're looking at the counselors and their movement and why certain things are the way that they are.
Somebody brought up Adventures in Babysitting. There is Adventures in Babysitting kind of vibe going on there.
Someone also said Tia from Uncle Buck, which is another good reference.
Yeah.
Great film.
So do we have a Ben background?
We do.
Deb?
We do.
Oh, man.
Deborah Kim, the bookish girl is kind
Bookish
of
girl,
the
I like
term, right?
Studious.
Right. It's on 2 pages, so I'll have to jump between here. Deborah has always been the perfect little daughter to her family, the perfect little friend to those around her, and the perfect little student to those who've taught her. She's incredibly gifted, but chooses to spend her time helping those in need and working to discover everything there is to possibly know. She hopes one day to be a physician and rarely, if ever, leaves the library or her dorm. With only a few true friends, she is very timid around those she's never met, but becomes incredibly open when she is able to talk about her passions and get into discourse with those of similar interests. Her parents hope that going to college will help her come out of her shell, and to a point and to a point, the plan has succeeded. But Deborah remains enamored with learning and discovering. She knows that she's fun to be around. She just needs a few minutes to get to know someone. So there's Deb.
Another perfect one, and fitting with the movies too. You know, I see there's like a
I had some side notes too with Deborah's that she would be the kind of, I remember writing this in one of the other, some backgrounds and stuff, is that
Right.
she would be one of the characters that's like jealous of Tiffany.
Right.
She maybe even kind of like idolizes her a little bit.
Right,
Like,
right.
like I would like to be like that, but also I don't want maybe the social aspects of some girl that may be seen as like too flirtatious.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
And if
Like-
you strip away the look, so picture Ali Sheedy in Breakfast Club without the look of Ali, because obviously Ali Sheedy in Breakfast Club, her look is a little more AJ. Without the look, but the way she looks at the Molly Ringwald
Correct.
character,
Yeah.
same kind of an idea. You know, that you know, envious kind of somewhat, but not really okay with going there. You know,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
looks like '80s Kelly Kapowski. No. So now, and I feel I have to apologize again for interrupting you earlier, but now we're going to bring it off over to AJ.
There you go.
I saved AJ for last.
So I had
because-
AJ had a little bit more of an extreme look when we, as you can see from the call outs here, and I started warming up more to a little softer version of AJ, not quite as 80s hair metal-y looking, but more. If you were to look at like 80s goth punk, it's kind of a little bit more into that vein and less like the image in the top right corner of what's her face from Sex and the City.
Right.
I can't remember her name. Anyway, that's like over exaggerated. Sarah, yeah, thank you. That's a little over exaggerated. But I liked some of the. I really like those glasses. I thought those glasses were hilarious. They look like the ones that, if you've ever seen Mannequin.
Get out of my head, Wes, because I was going to say it, and I was like, "There's no way." he's gonna put
Hollywood,
that band- Hollywood and Mannequin.
Yeah. That's like what I first pictured in my head was the glasses from that. So it took me forever to find those glasses. I'm like, yeah, these. I want to be wearing these. And there was some conflict also with like how glasses are going to go on the face. Can they get knocked off? And there was just some elements that were like regular spectacle type of glasses is much easier to pull off than something that's really big on the face.
Right.
And I felt like it was going to cover up too much of the face too. And so whenever I started going back and realizing there were some things I couldn't get that I wanted, that it started making me rethink the AJ character and how I wanted her to look, even to the point of that concept art where her hands are together, right? You can just tell that she's sort of, and she internalizes a lot, right? That was the vibe that I wanted to go with AJ. So while on the right side of the screen you see something that's like, wow, look at all these call outs do not look like what AJ turned out to be. That's just part of the process.
Right.
As you come up with these ideas, but then the more you're living with that character, the more you start realizing like everything on the right side of the screen felt like really fake. And like if you just said, hey, come up with what an 80s rocker chick would look like, it felt generic and it didn't feel like there was substance to that character. And so that was nixed in
Whereas
direction.
that left side, that's again somebody that we all know from high school. You know what I mean? That's somebody that, like you said earlier, that's somebody that you knew who showed you the first Joy Division album you listened to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, she's so great. So
AJ Mason.
yeah, there we go.
AJ's first experience with rock was both of her parents at the age of 12 when she got to attend a night at CBGB during its heyday. Her parents, both punk rocker fans, taught her about the music she listens to with a passion. Her entire goal one day is to become a rock star, follow in the footsteps of her favorite artist, Debbie Harry, Blondie. While her exterior might seem gruff, she's all about rock and roll and will talk for hours on end with anyone that'll listen. She spends her time learning every single instrument and loves to attend venues whenever she can. As a result, she does like to party quite a bit, but tries to keep it manageable as to not affect her chances at finishing her own album. A lot of people might not want to talk to her, but they'll definitely want to party with her. That's AJ.
I think it's pretty dope that there's a mention of CBGBs in there.
Of course.
And of course, Blondie, being CB's band from back in the day. That's amazing. Another one, well done, Ben.
Job, Ben.
Yeah, Ben. Jeez, man, I didn't know you had this character development kind of bone in you. You know, like this. That's awesome, man. That's why she's our number one. See, there you go.
Ben, see, I know something about music.
Yeah. So now that we've gone through our first 4
Yes.
concept arts, we have another set of concept arts to show you guys. We're going to set up a little bit here. We've got Jeanne Meyers. We know Kenny Riedel is actually a Kenny Riedel.
Correct. Real person, real life.
Jeanne Meyers is the final girl
Sure, or girl next door.
next door.
Right.
Now, before we launch into any more of the treatments, because we were only able to dig out a treatment for Tiffany.
Yes.
We're going to get to.
Right.
But let's talk a little bit about Jeanne Meyers.
Yep. So Jeanne, of course, there's characters throughout the Friday the 13th franchise that become like final girls. And you can probably guess as to which one was kind of inspired for Jeanne. Ronnie named both of them. I mean, the first and the last name for that. Might have to ask him why he chose Myers as the last name.
Hashtag no wink.
Right, but you can also recognize that shirt she's wearing in the concept art.
Sure.
Yeah, so anyone who's familiar with the films will obviously pick out.
Well, and I was going to say that if you look at Jeanne Meyers, she could be almost any of the dress. I mean, personality-wise, obviously. But she's very part 3, right? I mean, the clothing and the style.
It's like the
of her
identical shirt.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty much the exact shirt.
But even Vera at one point in part 3 is walking around looking just about like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of that too is like the time period, I think, and
Sure.
what was fashionable. But yeah.
Sure. And we spent a lot of time with like really old, there's like J.C. Penney and Sears and a bunch of like old catalogs from back then to like pick out what clothing should they be wearing. Yeah, it was a strange time of my life that I spent
Looking at 80s JCPenney.
Yeah. There's you Google search and you can find some really great like old
Oh yeah.
retro, stuff that instead of someone creating like a stereotype of what they think 80s clothes should look like, that wasn't what we did. And if you think about the films and when they came out and when they were shot, right? Like the counselors that would be wearing clothes, if the film was like 1982, then they would be wearing clothes that's more suitable for like 1980.
Right.
Right? Because they're in production and then and the movie comes out, right? Like, so it's a little bit behind. So even though you're looking at, something that's like early 80s, you may have to even look at like 78 and 79 for clothing to match it.
In those details too. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, people don't think about those kind of things whenever they're playing the game, but every single facet of the belt, the pants, the type of shoes she's wearing, every single bit of it was hours and hours of going through old catalogs and making sure that we identified like what would this character be wearing. First of all, like the personality of the character needs to be reflected in the clothing, but then that also has to be correct for the time period.
And I think that one of the interesting things there is when done well, that detail, that level of detail, it's like unnoticeable. And that sounds insulting. I don't mean it.
No, yeah, you're right.
But when it's done really well, you just kind of go, well, yeah, it's
That's supposed to be that way.
takes place in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only when it's done bad that it's jarring.
Yep.
So it's really a tricky thing because if you put all that effort and time and research into making this just hit like the needle mark, the pinhead on making this perfect, people just kind of go, well, yeah, it's an 80s thing. Mm-hmm. You blow it anywhere, I mean, like, oh my God, outrage. So it's like that's a razor's edge, man.
Yeah, you either no one says a word about it or they hate you forever.
Right. It's thankless, thankless.
There's been a
research.
few people though that have reached out to me and been like, man, the clothing in the game is awesome. Like, great job. And I'm like, cool, thanks.
And, one of the things I think is interesting too, and then I'm going to let you get into that bio, I'm sorry, but we had something that we couldn't quite work into this format to show was some of the promo stuff that you guys put together for some of the clothing packs. Mm-hmm. And you guys put them together as like, it's a PDF of what I remember being like the mail order catalogs that would come to my house. You know what I mean? In the 80s. So the coolest.
That was just for internal use, like for all the texture artists and animators and 3D art and all those people, we would send them that like world book of how clothing is supposed to be, so that as soon as they touch it and open it, they're immediately whisked back to late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
So that they're, even whenever they're sitting and working, they have it open on another screen, that it's constantly reminding them that this is the time period. Look at everything in this.
Living in that world, kind of.
Exactly.
That's pretty awesome, yeah.
Yep. So Jeanne Meyers, the girl next door. You ready?
yeah.
Jeanne has always had the middle-class American upbringing. A brother and sister at home, the family dog, and even a horse she gets to play with every now and then. Jeanne's upbringing has been completely unremarkable. After graduating high school with a reasonably good GPA, she's moved out to college while still visiting family on the weekends. Jeanne's friends mainly moved out to different schools, so she's getting to meet new people and has grown into a new circle of friends. She mainly checks out what her university has to offer with extracurriculars, but also spends the weekends at house parties, usually ending up cleaning up after her friends the next morning. She's learned to be respectful of others, help those in need, but not be too uptight when it comes to having fun.
Again, another well done one. And, you hear it and you think.
I mean, especially that part about cleaning up after like someone throws the house party,
That's
the
right.
girl that waits, or guy or girl, whatever, that waits afterwards to help clean up, like that's so Jeanne.
I think it's funny that Ben wrote that line, too.
Yeah, but we've all known these kind of people, right? Like,
We have, but around the office here, we order pizza, and we have 4 pizza boxes with 3 slices of pizza in them each. Everybody else is just shoving greasy pizza in their face, and Ben is like,
Ben's
he's
consolidating.
He's
right.
like, you guys done? You want me to put these in the fridge? Ben, another great job on that one.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to call you out.
Ben's like office mom. Then is that what you're trying to say?
He kind of is.
Nice. Cool. What do we got next?
We got, because again, we're going to cut through, we're going to hit Kenny Riedel, and we're going to actually talk about Vanessa a bit before we go into.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny was based off of, I mean, it's not it's a head counselor is his sort of the trope of him.
Right.
I mean, looking at the Christie family and the people who rejuvenated Crystal Lake, I mean, it's pretty obvious what we were going for with this guy, with the boots and socks and shorts.
Yeah.
The sort of lumberjack shirt.
Not just shorts, but jorts, man.
Jorts, right, yeah. So you can obviously see the nods for that, but then Kenny Riedel was one of our backers, and so whenever we offered, like, here's all the different tropes that you can be, he was like, oh, the head counselor sounds rad, I want to be that person. So that's why Kenny Riedel became Kenny Riedel.
You see, and Jinx actually was just asking about that. His nickname was head counselor, and there you go. That's actually, part of the lore. Now, let me ask something. That being based off of, is Kenny Riedel a backer?
Yeah.
So now that being based off a backer, was the backer head counselor garb as well, or is that kind of, the backer is for the model and
we put their face and it's close to their, like, what they build sort of look like, but they don't get to make call outs on clothing.
Gotcha.
That's all. That creative is all on us because we were, again, kind of had it under a fine tooth comb. We wanted it to look exactly
So even Palomino then was the clothing, the look of him was you guys.
correct.
Oh, okay, cool,
Correct.
cool. That's good. That's a good.
But I mean,
good distinction.
he like we send over this kind of information to those backers, and we're like, which of these sounds like you?
Right.
And everyone picked.
Right.
Which one sounded more like them. Whereas like Bugsy actually did play basketball in high school. And
Right.
He was like, yeah, no, I'm the jock.
Yeah.
That's me all day.
Period. End of. Yeah.
So it's like, cool. Okay, Kenny Riedel, we ready to get into this?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
He's a couple of years out of college and has settled into his first job. While he enjoys working at the camp and has attended various summer camps throughout his developing years, he is incredibly unfulfilled with the prospect of his job choices at this time. Originally working towards a finance degree, Kenny was unable to secure a position at a large New York firm after finishing college. Now living with his parents as he tries to secure full-time employment, he still got the tried and true job of working as a head counselor, something that he's done for years. While the job is fulfilling, he does get a sense of responsibility and leadership. He wishes he could be doing something else with the skills in his time. He is a man who feels like he's a leader, but is completely and utterly underwhelmed with his station in life. There's Kenny.
That's another wonderful example. But one of the other things I kind of wanted to ask for my own selfish reasons. Definitely Christie family. Oh, what are you doing all the way out here? Is what I think of. But also to a bit the I can't remember the character's name now. Now again, not dress because he at one point does tie a sweater around his neck. Drove the Volkswagen. Was the
Part 6?
Part 3.
Oh.
Sweater around the neck, drove the Volkswagen, was the boyfriend of the girl who came back. And
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember
yeah,
the
yeah.
character's name
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
A little bit of him in this too.
Okay.
A little bit of him in that too. It seems like.
Okay.
Again, I'm just running wild.
Sure.
Next up, we have Vanessa, though. Let's talk a little bit about Vanessa.
Vanessa. So we wanted someone that, because you have a male jock, and that's a different mindset than a female athlete.
Mm-hmm.
The male jock probably lets grades slip more, likes to party more, maybe gets into some stuff they shouldn't, has a cheerleader draped on him all the time. It's like that kind of mentality, where the female athlete, we were going more towards someone who was like truly driven. Right? They probably are more so of a leader than maybe the jock is.
Right.
You know what I mean? That they're passionate about. With Vanessa, she was a 100-meter dash person. Like that's her goal, was like go to the Olympics and
Right.
and run a 100-meter dash. So she has this philosophy of being driven towards that and wanting to train a lot. Right. So that was the kind of mindset around Vanessa's character, and why she also hauls ass in the game. Right. Is she's the fastest counselor because she trains like a mofo. That was the goal of creating her. And I researched a bunch of tracksuits that would have been popular late 70s, early 80s. They're all made out of like this velour, sort of velvety sort of stuff. It's like a cross between a terry cloth and velvet.
That's right. Any female gym teacher wore it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so I saw it as sort of this warm-up gear that, she would be wearing when she's not running, like to kind of keep warm, even if it's really hot outside. She may still have it on because she wants to keep her muscles warm to always be able to
That's right.
do whatever, So here's the quick background on Vanessa. The exact definition of an overachiever. Vanessa spends all of her time focusing on her career and hopes one day to represent USA in the Olympics in the 100-meter sprint, among other running and distance-based events. She doesn't believe in luck, only the pursuit of perfection when it comes to sports and performance. She does not socialize much outside of school and hardly focuses on anything other than training. She has no respect for sloths and refuses to engage in any activity that could negatively affect her chosen career. This attitude isn't necessarily present to those that she meets for the first time, but she's quick to drop anything that doesn't have a positive impact on her life. She only has a very tight-knit group of friends, and all of them are incredibly competitive with one another. She sees competition as healthy and encourages a bit of trash talking to help motivate not only herself, but others, even if they don't necessarily agree.
I like Vanessa, man. I have a new appreciation for Vanessa. One thing I did see in chat that I thought was pretty funny was a couple people were saying, why does Vanessa date anybody? Does Vanessa date anybody? She does date Kenny in one of the final single-player challenges.
She does in that, but I think that was like maybe a lapse of judgment for her. Not in the fact that Kenny is like a bad dude. It's just that was probably one of those moments where she's like, let her guard down. She needs to get back on focusing on like becoming a world-class athlete.
Right.
But everyone has their weak moments, right, where they decide to make out with somebody.
Well, and I thought it was pretty funny. Somebody in chat said, Vanessa's dating a box of pocket knives. And I got a little kick out of that.
That's pretty good.
Looks like we're getting a raid here. I might have missed the call out on who that raid was.
Well, I see a whole bunch of Sequisha stuff happening.
Oh, there he is, yeah.
Sequisha in here joining us.
It looks like it.
Dope.
Hey, thank you very much. We're about to get into Miss Tiffany Cox, which we saved for last for obvious reasons.
Hello, everyone from Sequisha's chat, if this was indeed a Sequisha raid.
Yeah, it looks like it, and thank you very much for the raid. We appreciate it, man.
I have a head cold, so I sound like crap, so, that's a thing. But today we're going over some of the inspirations for both the backgrounds of the counselors in Friday the 13th, as well as the clothing and what they look like and why were those decisions made.
Right.
That's what we're discussing today in this episode of Beyond, which is our weekly show that we, every Tuesday, where we get together and talk about projects that we're working on, both Friday the 13th, obviously, and then Layers of Fear 2, with our partners, Bloober Team, who's the dev team behind that title. So sometimes on Beyond, we're talking about Friday. Other times we're talking about Layers of Fear. So that's what we're doing today. Is doing a little bit of almost like a postmortem, a little bit of about counselors and stuff that were in Friday the 13th. So we just covered Vanessa, and I think is Tiffany next or
Tiffany is next.
Tiffany's next.
Everybody recognizes the one treatment picture on
Yeah.
the right there. Everybody
Right.
knows that one.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, you see, there's two images there on the right from the Friday films that we were obviously inspired by, and it says this face and hair. We got too close on the face on one of them, and we had to kind of back it back off again. But that's a scene from. Give me a second. I'm on cold medicine, so I'm not firing like perfect.
Take time, bud.
In that scene, she says, "Can you hammer a 2-inch nail through a 2x4 with only your penis?" She says that to Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Real Genius.
Yeah.
That's a scene from that's a shot from Real Genius. I had a massive crush on her growing up as a kid, and I was like, I had to figure out how to get this girl in the game. And if you look at the concept art of the girl that's in the water with her back
Yes.
and she's turning, like.
That's pretty much her.
Pretty dead on. Like,
yeah.
you get pretty close to that.
Adam Wilson in chat is saying Terry is the name of the girlfriend.
There you go.
Real Genius.
There you go. But then, yeah, you can see the clothing from one of the twins that was riding the bike, with the dip shoulder. That's the chick. Whenever the guy throws the rock or he does something, hits her, and she's like, "Hey!" and turns around with Mickey Mouse shirt. Obviously, we can't put a Mickey Mouse shirt in the game, but you get the mashup of the top versus the bottom.
Yeah, twins top, and then the bottoms for that girl. Yeah.
Yep. She wears white Keds because that was the hotness in the
Well, yeah.
pretty much the whole 80s. Like, girls wear white Keds.
Couldn't go
And that's
wrong.
KEDS to those that are not familiar with the shoes. I even was considering like reaching out to Keds because they still existed and being like, "Hey, we want to legit put the shoes in the game. How do we?" And my lawyers were like, "No,
Not
just
worth it
change
for a
them.
little tiny
Just
shoe
change
logo."
it a whole bunch and don't make it look like it, but everyone will understand." And I'm like, "Okay, fine."
Yep.
But yeah, that was the sort of mashup of Tiffany. But she's definitely, as you can even see in her pose in the concept art, confident, flirty, definitely appreciates the attentions of anyone, but especially likes boys.
Right. And that's kind of very a twins trait.
Yeah.
I mean, right. The twins do that whole first party and everything kind of,
Oh, yeah.
So
So let's get let's get a bio real quick on
let's
Tiffany.
do that.
Tiffany Cox, a.k.a. the Flirty Girl. And yeah, the name Tiffany to me, it straight up was Tiffany Amber Thiessen, right? Or how you say her name. So Tiffany just to me sounded like an 80s Flirty Girl name.
Sure.
And I think Ronnie was the one that was like, she's got to have the last name Cox. Because that's like Ronnie's sense of humor. And I was like, print it.
You got it.
Ben can chime in if I'm wrong on
Ship
that,
it.
but I'm pretty sure that's how that
Ronnie,
happened.
100% for the
Yeah, there you go. Okay, good. I'm glad that you and I both have similar memory on that. Okay, so anyway, Tiffany Cox, the Flirty Girl. Tiffany's family life has always been a bit tough. Her mother passed away when she was still a toddler, leaving her with a dad who had split time between raising an only daughter and providing for them both. She always had her dolls around, as well as Rufus, the family dog. However, she never really got the love and attention that she wanted. Knowing only her upbringing from her father and the occasional help from her aunt and uncle, Tiffany soon found that getting to know her classmates growing up provided a welcome reprieve. As she grew, she knew that guys started acting a bit more nice towards her as she grew. Now in college, Tiffany has a good idea of what guys and girls want out of her. She attends class and hopes one day to work as a social services caseworker, but in the meantime, she's always down to meet new guys, perhaps get a couple of drinks, and enjoy all that college has to offer. After all, we only live once. Why not have some fun and have a few good stories for when she settles down and focuses on a career after college?
Yeah, that's Tiffany, all right.
There's Tiffany. Heart of gold, someone says. Yep. She is. Yep.
I think the funniest thing here, though, is that when talking about these characters, you immediately think of films. I think that one of the things that isn't noted quite enough is how much care, I mentioned it earlier, went into crafting the counselors. And to the point where when you play the game, I actually had a conversation with Dan about it at one point where I was like, that's a character that's like straight out of a movie. And he was like, no, it isn't. And I was like, that's like one of those is straight out of the movie. And I would have sworn that one of the counselors was like literally just straight from a movie similar to how you guys did with Fox and Shelley.
Right.
And he was like, no, that's a completely original. And that level of believability in the characters is something that
well, it's mixing some. Sometimes it's clothing, sometimes it's personality, it's hair, right? Of some of the staples from all of horror, but also looking at characters in Friday that people maybe resonate or just remember some of those elements of them, but then mashing those things together while coming up with something still that's unique and new to the canon of Friday to introduce these characters that if you saw it. If you took these exact same characters and made a Friday the 13th movie and put them all in there, you wouldn't like go, oh, that person's out of place. Like you'd be like, yeah, these are supposed to be here, and I want them all to die.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Except for maybe Jenny or AJ.
Which again is one of those things. Like when you watch a Friday the 13th movie, I get it. A lot of folks have said it. I'm not saying anything all that deep here, but you don't really invest in the counselors because you know that 99% of them are gone at the end of the movie, right?
Yep.
And
but
so you kind of get like the base of them.
Yeah.
Right. Which,
but in film, they tend to, they don't give you, especially on Friday, they don't give you a lot of character development. They don't give you a lot of backstory. Right. But what they give you is a lot of quips and surface conversation that makes you quickly understand what trope they are. But then also, am I supposed to like this person or not?
Right.
And it seems like in the Friday series, it's like 75% of the people that come in that have camera time and say something, you're like, I don't like that person.
Right.
There's something about them, right? That they either are they screw someone else on, you know what I mean, or one of them's trying to get in bed with somebody and they're at all costs they'll do it or whatever. It's like, or someone is I'll smoke in the weed. And it's like, oh, that guy. That's
Even the dude doing the handstand and walking around. I was like, I can't wait for him to go.
Why?
He just annoyed me.
Yeah, with the yo-yo as well.
Yeah, the yo-yo, walking on your hands. It's like, bro, what are you doing this for? Like, who's this all for?
Because he's showing off?
Yeah, he's just peacocking.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Jason to get you. But, it's horrible. I'm a horrible person.
No, but I think that's the point of that, right? Like, it's why because if they made all the characters lovable and they made them all like you were rooting for them, then that's going to be when Jason starts to show up to kill them. It's different now. You know what I mean? It's like, no.
And there's a place for that in horror, which, obviously, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween is one of the most notable ones where you're like...
But even in that series, you had ancillary characters that became like... It was kind of the fuel for Michael to get up to that final, showdown is, he's going to mow through some of the neighbors, some of the babysitters and stuff like...
You see PJ Souls head up into that room and you're like, oh, you're a goner for sure. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, what I think is interesting, though, is a lot of times because of that, like you said, shallow character development. What you walk away from is with the trope. You walk away with this general outline.
Yeah. But it shifts the focus of the audience to the killer and wanting to know more about the killer, which can be a double-edged sword, right? That because the more you know about a killer, their background and what makes them tick, then the less fearful you are of them and the less sometimes iconic they become because you can narrow it down to like human emotion and human things that you identify with. So then it's like, is the killer as powerful as you think it is?
Right.
You know what I mean? I know when I was talking to Sean about this, about Jason and backgrounds of Jason, is that, and I'm sure this wasn't something that he said that was a huge epiphany or whatever, but it stuck with me, which was, do you really want to know the background of Jaws?
Right.
I'm like, not really. And he's like, do you care? Do you want to see Jaws from when it was a guppy?
You're right, little big shark.
Going through the, Like, he said, do you care about any of that? And I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, you're right. You want Jaws to show up, fuck shit up, and leave in a pool of blood. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, Jason's no different. He's like, so the more that you try to learn or start to dig up more about, well, why is he killing? Why is he here? It's like, it starts to take something a little bit away, some of the mystique and some of the fear.
Yeah, and I think you get enough of him. Again, similar to the counselors, you get enough of him to know where you land. And I don't think a lot of people land on the side.
The other thing that I didn't predict that was very interesting that happened in the game was the role playing. Is that people get in and they see the character, right? So if it's a Tiffany, right, and they're like, even if it's a male person in real life, and they're like, I want to play as Tiffany, that when they get into the game and mics turn on, they start acting as if, based on their previous knowledge of, oh, I knew a girl like this in high school, so I'm going to act like her.
Without having seen Ben's background.
With no bio,
Right.
with not seeing them, on film doing anything. For all intents and purposes, this is a flat character.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're just looking at what they look like on the surface, and then they immediately adopt a story and start acting these scenes out or whatever, right? That was awesome. Like, that to me was like, wow, like that's really, really cool. Because in a film, at least, of course, obviously you're sitting back as a bystander and you're just consuming what was made in a linear fashion, right? And so you're going to learn about somewhat of the characters as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
In the game, it's not that. Game starts, here you are, I'm looking at across from the jock. And it's like, well, okay, I've known jocks. I've known jocks in horror movies. So you're probably kind of this dude. Even though the guy behind the sticks may not be that at all.
Which is how Chad ends up. I mean, you
right. Anyone who plays a Chad
is a dick. They
like,
play as a dick.
but that's so. What's so funny is that the human behind the mouse, keyboard, joysticks, whatever, isn't that way.
No,
like they could be a super awesome person, but when you ask them to be a Chad, they do it.
It's something, it's like nobody cared who I was till I tied the sweater around my neck. You know what I'm saying? There's something like that possesses
Which is
you.
kind of like Kane. Kane is like a huge, sweet teddy bear.
Yeah.
And then when we were doing mocap and he puts that mask down, you don't fuck with him.
That's right, yeah.
Like, it's the same thing, right? Like, it's really, really interesting to me that someone who would be like always there for their friends and probably plays other games where they play maybe a support role, they're trying to help and shit. They put on the sweater and they become Chad.
That's that.
They will leave their friends dying laughing, like,
In a minute.
my dad owns a dealership. Fuck, screw you guys. And they just, peel out.
That's it. You see, and Jinx just said it. Oh, wait. She said it here. Running people over as Chad isn't teaming or toxic. It's role playing.
Yeah.
There's certain parts that it comes down to it, man.
I know that as soon as because I did not predict any of this to happen. The RP scene when Friday the 13th hit it was a thing, but it wasn't mega huge, I guess. Maybe it was with like Grand Theft Auto. I think there were some people that were in there that were RPing, but I didn't expect it.
Right.
Like, I didn't expect people to do that with our game. And they did, and I started being like, wow, this is really, really interesting. That in like Grand Theft Auto RP, people come up with their own persona and attach it to a nondescript character in Grand Theft Auto, and they just walk around.
Dress their character that way.
Yeah, exactly. And this was, you got a predetermined trope that you're looking at. You're like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do here. And everyone has some sort of a similar way to act them out. Like, if you put 10 people in 10 different matches and told them to play Tiffany and RP it, they're all going to RP pretty similar.
That's right.
Which is just interesting. It's very, like, somebody ought to do a psychological study on.
It's how ingrained those elements are. I mean, between watching the movies, from the work that was done to replicate that, I just feel like
and your personal experience. Like,
sure. I mean, because again, what makes these characters believable in the films and in the game is the fact that we all know somebody like that way.
Right. Which is just a neat element that you bring to it is that if maybe you don't want to be a dick as Chad, and you really do want to help and support, you can do it. Yeah. It's just when someone is like in a house and they see a Chad walk in, they're gonna be like, this guy's probably gonna try to screw with me. Right.
Well, and when you jump into the game as Bugsy or as Adam, don't you feel a little more like you get a baseball bat and you're like, oh, come on, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm not that way, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
I'm a wuss in real life. But,
right. Jason walks through the door and I got Adam. I'm like, give me the bat.
Like, come at me, bro. Right. Exactly.
Somebody keeps asking, who is Tiffany dating? And I think that obviously, guys, the answer is, it depends on who's around. You know?
Yeah. I mean, she's got her eye on Chad. Yeah. She definitely has her eye on Chad.
She goes for Kenny.
She does in the
end.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tiffany, as we learned in the bio, she didn't get much attention growing up. And so she's seeking it in any way, shape, or form.
She's having a good time.
And so I think anyone that would, give her some time and show her love and affection, she's going to be smitten with them.
She may end up getting thrown out of an octagonal window.
It could happen.
It's possible.
Onto a car below. Right.
Eye on LaChapa? Yeah, there you go. Nice guy doesn't finish last this time. Somebody tried to say Tiffany and Jason. Come on now.
Right. It's
Come on now.
not a thing.
So yeah, guys, we're gonna jump into some. Oh, before we move on to our Q&A session, we wanted to just briefly, Rob, if you could just show the full pack.
There you go.
Counselors.
Those are our OG 10 counselors.
That's the original squad.
Yeah.
Which actually this asset was named Squad,
Was.
which was really great.
Yeah.
I was like, so yeah. Now, as you guys can tell, there's a couple of them that we don't have quite the treatments on. We also don't have some early concept art on them, but we're talking about it's been a minute. So post-mortem wise, this was what we could dig up for you folks.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any questions about the counselors, let's hear them in chat because we've got some time to do some Q&A with the community. It also doesn't have to be about counselors. The whole point of Beyond is this is our opportunity to sit down and hang out and kind of touch base with you guys. So
Well, maybe Tiffany's with Tommy. Maybe.
Hey,
But Tommy's pretty focused on
that's true. I don't think Tommy
righting that wrong of digging Jason up. Right. Like
you said writing. Okay, yeah.
Righting the wrong. Yeah. Of digging up Jason, and he feels like it's his fault. And
Yep.
so I don't know that he's going to be necessarily looking for love.
Even when you call in Tommy when he first appears on the scene,
Yeah.
the man is on a mission.
Oh yeah.
He ain't screwing around.
No.
Yeah.
He's definitely
No
not.
pun intended.
Yeah. He's
So-
not trying to do Jello shots with anybody.
That's right. Serial killer says, not true, Matt. I was really invested in the twins. I guess he's saying when I was saying you're not invested in cats.
Oh yeah.
That's a little different there, serial killer.
Sorry, I'm Kleenexing it right now.
Yeah, do it up.
I'm
let's
just
see
just
here. We
running.
Did any of the backers get mad at the stats you gave them?
No,
No.
they did not.
See? There you go.
We actually there wasn't. I think the only time there was some like mild adjustments. We did the Bugsy. The guy was a super nice guy, and he was like, "Hey, I would have done this." Like, I think the first version, his jacket maybe had a football on it or something. He was like, "I actually play basketball. Is that cool?" And we're like, "Yeah." So we made some adjustments to that. And his face, I think there was some. We made it a little more slender to match like what he looked like. Because he sent us like one photo, and then he was like, "No, man, look at these other ones." And it was like better. It was like, "Oh, okay, you kind of look more like that." Got it.
Yep. Oh, we got another question here. Was there any communication with Amy Steele to have Ginny be in the game? Was there any consideration for Ginny in the game?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to get into a bunch of here's the things that we were going to put in the game
No, not at all.
because that just goes down a slippery slope.
Sure.
Yeah, I know Amy Steele, and I had many conversations with Amy.
Cool. So it was something explored. See? Wes, did you come up with the idea for LaChapa's Andre the Giant costume?
I did. I did. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And it's not an Andre the Giant costume.
It's not. It's just a generic wrestling costume, and the strap is on the other side. Andre the Giant had it on this one, and we changed up the belt to not look anything like the WWE/WWF because it was called WWF in the 80s. It doesn't look like their world championship belt. It was more generic, but yeah, that was the inspiration for sure because I kind of felt like that LaChapa was I was into wrestling, so I assume he probably was into wrestling too growing up. And then if there was a character that he identified with, it may have been Andre the Giant because he was big. He was a bigger character, but he was really powerful, but he was kind of quiet. Andre wasn't a showman like some of the other wrestlers. So I feel like LaChapa probably would identify a little bit with him is because Andre also had a bit of a speech issue due to pituitary gland issues. So there were some things that sort of were against Andre the Giant, but yet he was powerful and unstoppable, and all these big, bold, beautiful, blonde, muscled characters would come attack Andre, and he would just choke slam them into hell, right?
Which kind of plays into LaChapa in
It
game.
does.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, whenever I was sitting and thinking about what are these Halloween costumes and how they match the characters, that's where I go with it. Is I take it all the way back to what was LaChapa probably doing at 8, 9, 10 years old, right? Sitting around the TV,
Hanging out.
he would have been watching Andre the Giant, and he would have identified with that character. So,
And apparently Kenny Riedel would be a cop in short shorts.
well, it's because, and here's the why, is Kenny, whenever we got the pictures from Kenny, and this is from the real life Kenny, and I was flipping through them, I go, man, he kind of looks like Punch from Chips. And that stuck in my head.
Holy crap.
So when it came time to make the Halloween costume, I was like, cop uniform, right? And I think I talked to Ben about it. And Ben's like, yeah, dude, like Chips. I'm like, yeah, because he kind of has this Punch vibe. And
See, what Fat Nuts said is exactly where my mind always
Lieutenant
goes.
Jim Dangle. Yeah, Ronnie sent that picture. I feel like me, Ben, and Ronnie all had an email exchange. And Ben can chime in, that's Praetorian in chat, that we were already like going down this road of like, yeah, he should maybe dress as a police officer. And I feel like Ronnie sent yeah, we did. And I feel like Ronnie sent an image of of Officer Dangle with them damn white, you know what I mean? And Ronnie's like, this all day, you know, whatever. And I think Ben and I laughed so hard, we're like, we have to do it.
That's
like,
great.
That's got to be in there. But yeah, we definitely looked at each one of the counselors, and we had the first pass of like, here's our dream of having these costumes, and then your 3D animator or your 3D artist and your animator, they all look at it and they go, you know, and you're like, damn it. So you got to come back and like start changing everything, because like there was some things we wanted to do that had some height to like, hats and things that were kind of big, and they're like, absolutely not, no, never, you know. And we're like, so like the only thing we could get was like the little devil horns, right? Then it wasn't a whole lot more we could keep adding to the top of the head because it messed things up, and you can't really go out because you get arm clipping. So you're
kind of bound by that.
You start getting sort of pigeonholed, like, well, shit, like there's only a handful of things we can do here, but making sure that they matched the trope of each one of these was definitely mattered, and that's why Chad, we chose the Cobra Kai outfit, because we kind of felt like that was a perfect fit, that he probably would have saw that movie and identified more with. He probably saw Daniel LaRusso as the bad guy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like here's this poor ass, kid that's like messing with these dudes, and
Well, I think what's funny is when you talk about Chad, you talk about like he's basically every 80s movie bully.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, well, okay. So of course he would want to dress like Cobra Kai.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Goku Chad. Yeah. Rob just said Goku Chad. But one of the other Halloween costumes that I get a pretty good kick out of is, well, you have Tiffany running around in the thing.
The devil costume.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is just, it feels like got to be done, right?
Yeah.
Deb as the bunny.
Yeah.
I want to know about Deb as the bunny.
To me, it was, she probably wanted to try to do something sexy, but at the same time,
ended up in a zip out.
but she knew her parents would be totally against it.
That's a good point.
Not let her do it. So I mean, she probably looks at the Tiffany in that devil costume and wants to be that,
right?
But can't due to both her own self-esteem, but as well as she knows her parents would like say no way, and that she probably went to the costume place with her mom.
Yeah.
And that was, her mom was like, you would look really cute in this.
Cute bunny. Yeah.
Yes. And she was like, okay, mom.
Which kind of brings up a thing, because you can change it to be pink.
Yeah.
And that pressure from family saying, you look really cute, just try it on, reminds me of A Christmas Story.
Oh, yeah.
And her saying, oh, come on, she worked really hard on it, just go try it on. And he's like, this is ridiculous,
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody else asked.
Explain Bugsy's Halloween costume. So Bugsy's in the toga.
Yeah.
He's a jock, and so there would have been Halloween parties that just the basketball team would have had themselves, and they would have thrown toga parties. Like that's just what they would have done. So
sure,
it made sense that they want to show off that they're muscular, so they wear their toga thing and they wear short shorts and they drink kegs and carry their cheerleaders up to the bedrooms. Like that's why he's wearing a toga.
That's like a very frat kind of party, right? A toga party.
That's fucking adorable. It makes me love her more talking about Dev.
See?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But now somebody had asked, I asked at the same time that somebody else had asked, idea behind Deb and AJ's costume. So we heard Deb. What about AJ? I mean, I kind of feel like any girl who's into that like Bauhaus, Joy Division kind of music and that hair. I mean, a leotard essentially with a skeleton on it is like kind of a no-brainer. But was there more there that we're not really seeing, or was it just?
No, I mean that was pretty much what it seemed like fit for her
right.
character. Maybe a slight nod to Misfits, maybe a little bit, but yeah, definitely more macabre, a little bit, a little darker sense of humor, sense of fashion. So that just seemed to fit.
Not concerned with showing skin, but also not in the cute bunny
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
That she's gonna pick something that fits her personality and something that may even make some girls be intimidated.
Right.
Right. That if they see her in it, that they're like, "Why aren't you dressed like a slutty devil?" And it's like, because I'm better than you.
And that's kind of interesting too, because there is a standoffish nature to AJ. So that kind of does put a little distance, because it's a little more, spooky than what the other girls are
Exactly.
around in.
It's just a little more edgy, I guess.
Somebody says, will there be any need for backers in future time? That's a very vague question, Paul. Whose idea was it for the spring break trailer to show Chad with a bulge and Kenny making the angry face?
Man. I feel like that was another one of those group things where everyone was discussing like what matches what. And Praetorian, you may have to jump in here and help with why did we decide to show? I feel like we saw him in that Speedo and we're like, we have to show this. Right? Like this is a thing. But him like being grossed out then, like, ew, he like makes his face like, ew, it's awesome. I can't remember because everything's kind of a blur, and during that period is you're just kind of doing the thing. Like somebody comes in, you need a trailer, okay, and you just kind of punch it out. And there's multiple people, there's trailer people, there's music people, there's a graphic artist is doing intro, outro for like inslates, and it's just a lot of hands that are on there like making it all happen. So it's a huge amount of sport fans loved it, yeah. So it's never just like, oh, this one person sat down and did this.
Right.
That someone probably chimed in, you need to show Chad Bulge, and everyone unanimously was like, of course we do. And then it was like, and someone should be grossed out by it, right? Like it should. He stands there and flexes or whatever, and he's like, ew.
Yeah.
And then someone I think chimed in, and then J6 has to kill him immediately. Like throw the like as soon as he's like thinking he's the hot shit, he needs to be killed immediately.
See?
And that was like the ongoing joke. If you go back and look at all the Friday the 13th trailers, Chad dies in every one of them. I don't know if you guys knew that, but that was it was the point to that, is because he's a dick.
He's just, you even want to make the trailer have him get a little, punishment. But, I think that Speedo Chad is just the kind of thing that
Chad Bulge was all over the place. Yeah, it was in more ways than one.
So, oh, man. Wait, hang on. I had a question here that I wanted to read, and I lost it now. Oh, Matt, you're blowing it. Oh, hey, Gunn. Oh, here you go. How many people did you go through for voice actors? They all fit super well with their characters. What was that process like?
Yeah, so we would probably 5 per character, 5 people per character that they send in their demos. So what we would do is send, this much words to read from our game and give them a background on the character, and then like the stuff that Ben wrote, and then the VO actor or actress would read the lines. So it'd be like, here's these 5 different people portraying Deborah Kim, and we listen to, and it's the same line because everyone reads the same line, and then we would choose on that like who we thought sounded like what a Deborah should sound like, and we call them back, and then they would come in and do like a bigger section.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like they would talk a little bit more and give us a little more.
Still in the vetting.
And we would be like via, a Skype or whatever in this, like talking to them in the studio and giving some direction and saying, say it this way, say it that way. Okay, that's it. Now you've nailed it. Okay, now schedule the full shebang, which is, 3 or 4 days in the studio reading all the lines and whatever that's in the game. So it took us 2 weeks to narrow down maybe 50 or 60 demo reels that we would listen to and narrow down to the ones that we said were the right ones. Cool. And that's how you do that.
Was it removing the counselors banging on the CB radio when calling Tommy removed for any specific reason? I read that wrong at first. I mean, considering the topics of
I don't even know what they're talking about.
Hitting the CB radio.
Oh, before, like whenever they pick it up, they would like hit it, and then that was changed?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Like that's news to me. I didn't even know.
I didn't either, but I thought it was new guy stuff. So
yeah, no, I didn't know that.
We would have to look into that. But I mean, I'm out on a limb here, guys, but that's the kind of intentional change that I bet would have some reason behind it.
Oh, there had to have been. Somebody would just said, we're not doing that anymore. Something happened probably that they're like, oh, if we have to take this out because of whatever.
I would have to, I could research that and catch up with you on the forums though, bud. I thought that was, yeah, I'm sorry. Again, one of those times where I'm like, is that, because I'm new? Who was Vanessa based off of anyway? That's an original design, right?
Yeah, it was original. Design. Not a real person.
Right.
I think I was actually looking at, what was her name? It was a mixture of, the cute little girl from Saved by the Bell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't remember her name.
And there was one other from the 80s as well. Oh, I cannot remember where it was from, though. Because I remember having two images side by side when I was talking to the artist, and I'm like, mix these things up.
Right.
Like, mix some characteristics of this. Because I still wanted to have a sort of a younger, cutesier sort of face, not look too much like a woman yet. She's not quite there yet. So I still wanted a lot of youth in the face, but still seem very confident, very driven, so.
Lisa Turtle. Yes, the actress's name is the thing I can't really put my finger on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lisa played, but Lark Voorhees. There you go.
That's another one. That was one. Yep, that may have been who I pulled. Actually,
the name alone.
Yeah. Well, it's Voorhees, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That we're actually way past.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
And I just realized. I apologize. I've just been having a good time reading these questions and going through this stuff. I don't want to keep the boss man any longer. I know he's having a great time. He's being a real sport about it. But
well, my NyQuil is hanging in there real bad. I just crushed an entire tea. I have to pee so bad I can't stand it.
Okay, so either way, we got to get out of here.
Sorry.
We will definitely keep this conversation going on our Discord server, ! Discord and chat.
Mm-hmm.
We got one more giveaway, which we're going to run. Hopefully Gun Media Support / Gun Media Help can run this one pretty quick for us. But we've got on this giveaway.
Hashtag let Wes pee.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm trying, guys. We're going to do a steelbook and a copy of your game on your platform of choice, being Xbox One or PS4. It's an Ultimate Slasher Edition, which comes with all the DLC goodies. Not Savini Jason, don't ask. And a steelbook to throw it in when you get it home. ! Raffle in the chat. We'll get you in on Mixer. I don't believe you have to even enter anything in there. Gun Media Support's got it open already. Perfect. So the raffle's going, guys. Get in that raffle. We will get this sorted out for you. Again, this has been an episode of Beyond, where we covered all of the cool things about the counselors, all the development and design with...
Yeah, we should probably have a future one where we're talking about Jason's.
I have a plan.
Oh, there's a plan.
See?
You always have a plan.
I want to do Jason's and the maps, because I think that there's a lot of detail in those maps that a lot of the community seems to note. Like, Backnack Lodge, Higgins Haven, they're just so on point. I want to hear about some of the research that went into doing
the hero
those,
locations.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
So
I'm down.
We've got a couple more of these planned. We're going to be filling in some slots with them, though, guys. So, again, keep an eye out on social media for our schedule. And also on our Discord channel, we usually share what we're looking to do in the days prior. So, I need a new PS4 controller. If you send me the F3. Yeah.
You're going to have to wrap this up, or you're going to have to bring a mop in here.
Yeah. All right, guys. The raffle.
Yeah.
Close it. Let's call it a day. We got a winner coming. Switch gameplay when? Switch gameplay soon. Layers of Fear news soon. Probably Layers of Fear news before Switch gameplay. Then we've got PAX East, where we will have a Layers of Fear presence for you guys. So, laugh out loud, Wes. Wes is going to be...
Pee himself live on the stream. Tune in. Watch Wes pee.
Guys, we're going to sign off here. We're going to let Gun Media Support and Gun Media Help wrap up that raffle while we have our Thanks for Watching thing up. This has been another episode of Beyond. We'll be back Thursday with Bad Decision with Dan Part 2 on Until Dawn.
That's fun.
Thank you to my president and boss, Wes, my bud. Thank you for coming in.
Man, it was awesome. I had a great time.
Remember, keep the lagoon clean. Take care, everybody.
Sure.